Okay, the fourth and final part of the Scratch and Sharks and Fish project is going to be to add a countdown variable, which will add a timing component to our game. And it is also, we are going to add a second backdrop so that it will switch over and indicate that the game is over when the timer does run out. So first thing we want to do is add that countdown variable. And as we did our other variable, we want to put those variables that impact the game overall on the stage. So let's click over here onto our stage, and where we had added that green flag and set the score to 0 over here. Now we're going to go ahead and go to our variables, and we're going to make yet another variable. And this one, you can call it timer, you can call it countdown, you can call it, whatever you choose. But I'm going to go ahead and call mine countdown and say OK. And now you see it shows up over here. Now, I don't like it showing up right underneath because I think that as the fish are coming out from the left, it's kind of in the way. So you can just pick this up and drag it over here on the right, out of the way. And once again, you can see that on the panel over here, if that check mark is gone, it's going to disappear. So make sure that you keep that checked. Then we want to write the code that will go along with that variable. And so the first thing we want to do is let the Scratch know what that countdown should start at. So we're going to go to the control blocks and the variable blocks. Sorry about that. And then we're going to grab one of these set commands again. And then it's set the countdown. And we're going to make our game last for about 30 seconds. And so we're going to go ahead and set that countdown to 30. And now the countdown knows to start at 30, but we need to let the Scratch know how we are going to make that timer go down. So for example, if I start the game right now, I am going to see it set at 30, like I told it to, but it isn't changing because somehow we have to indicate to Scratch how to keep time. Excuse me. So the best way that I can recommend to do that is through the use of a control command, and that would be the repeat loop. Because a repeat loop in conjunction with wait a certain number of seconds is going to help us count down from 30 to 0. So you're going to start by bringing over a repeat loop. And since it's a 30-second counter, we need it to repeat 30 times. Now, all we want it to do is we want it to wait 1 second, and that seems great. But if you start your countdown now, it's waiting, but nothing's happening because we didn't tell it yet to change that variable at all. So you're going to go back to your variable blocks, and you're going to go to change countdown by 1 second. So what we're saying now is when the game begins, there's 30 seconds put on to the countdown, and then 30 times it's going to wait 1 second and reduce not +1, but -1. If we do +1, if you forget to add that minus there, then it's going to be counting up from 30 to 60. So clearly the negative is really critical right here. So once I've done that, let's try it and see if it works. And my timer is counting down 1 second, 2, 25, 24, 23, and it will continue to do that all the way down to 0. In the meantime, you can test your game and kind of watch around and make sure all your other components are working and your scoring and stuff. And let's just kind of see what happens when the timer or countdown gets to 0. And great, we're at 0. But as you can see, the fish are still swimming, the shark is still going, and so we're not really stopped. So even though the timer is done, the game isn't done, and so that's a problem. So what we want to do is stop that, and there is a command in the control buttons. Yeah, it's down here towards the bottom. I'll scroll a tiny bit, and it's stop all. So we want that stop all to occur right right inside of our, right outside of our repeat. So what we're telling it is set the score to 30, or the countdown to 30, and then 30 times. It's going to wait a second, count down, and then once these have all occurred, it will then go ahead and stop. Now, testing this can take quite a while. So if you were in the middle of just trying to test it to make sure your script is right, there's nothing wrong with during the testing process going through, and let's just change these to 5s just so we can test it quicker. Okay, and that way we'll click our go, and our countdown is at 4. Fish are still swimming. Our 1 is done, and now look, everything else stopped. So that's how you can test the code to make sure it works. But whatever you do, don't forget to go back and reset your countdown and your repeats to 30. But I do think it helps to know that so that it's a little faster to test it. And then the final thing that we're going to do is we are going to add a second background, and that background is going to say game over, so that we know how that it's an indicator to the player. And again, personalize it, add anything more exciting that you want to. These are just the bare minimums, okay? So what we want to do is go to our, we're still on our stage, so we want to go to our backdrops. And what we're going to do is we're just going to duplicate this underwater background. And all we want to do is use these paint tools to add a text box that says game over. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a text box right here. When I grab that text box, I can change my font. I'm going to use this pixel one because it kind of reminds me of an old-fashioned video game. And then I am also going to, I'm afraid that purple might not show up so well, so I'm going to just use good old-fashioned black. So there's really no question here. And then I'm just going to click that text tool, and wherever you want the text to show up, just click. I'm going to go ahead and type game over. Okay. Now you may decide that you don't particularly like the size of it or where it's placed. So if you kind of click slowly twice on it, you can then move it around, and you can grab these handles and kind of stretch it out like so. All right. So that looks pretty good to me. And I'm going to try it once again. I'll go back on my Shark script just to kind of see here. And I'm going to hit the go. And oh, problem, because it starts on the game over backdrop. So once again, we're going to have to go back on our stage because we need to tell Scratch it has no idea which one to start on. So if you go back on your stage, we need to not only tell it what to start the score at, what to start the background at, but also we need to tell it what to start the backdrop at. So we're going to go into those looks blocks, and we're going to go switch backdrop to, we're going to put that right up at the beginning, and we want that first one. Let's see, what were those numbers? I've got underwater 1 and underwater 2. So 1 is the original. So I'm going to go back to code. I'm going to pull that down to back underwater 1. Okay. And when I hit my start button now, it should reset to that original one. Okay. Problem is that nowhere do I tell it to switch to the other one. So at this point, we're going to go switch backdrop to underwater 2, and we're going to put that right after our countdown ends. Okay, so let's test that one more time, and to test it again, I'm going to go ahead and shorten this up quite a bit so that we can just test it real fast and see if everything works. We'll hit the green flag. Sure. Oh, there is a problem there. It certainly didn't. Well, actually, yes, it did. I was thinking I was going 30 seconds. Silly me. I'll try that one more time. Hit the green flag, starts at 5, but it's still stopping. Okay, so I clearly have a bug. So let's look back at this and see what I did wrong. Aha. A simple, tiny sequencing error can make all the difference. Right now, I've told it to wait 1 second, change my countdown, and switch. I need that switch to come out and go outside of that repeat loop, but above the stop all. Okay, So one more time, I'm going to test that. Here we go. I've got my countdown going down. Everything else is still occurring. And as the countdown ran out, my game over popped up and all the action stopped. Now you'll see your fish, your shark will still drive, but everything, all other action has ceased. So at that point, in terms of the rubric and the absolute minimum requirements, your game is now done. Once you are satisfied with it and you believe you've done everything, then I want you to go back to the rubric in Google Classroom, which is, let's see, let me find that, sorry. In the assignment here, you'll see the rubric is posted right there, and you can just refer to that and make sure you have all of the components. Once that is good, then the last thing that you need to do is come back to Google Classroom, and on the classwork scratch game, make sure that you go in and hit mark as done. Nobody should be hitting mark as done until they have finished all of part 4. And then lastly, of course, just one more reminder, feel free to add anything extra. You can add additional objects, you can add speed up your fish, slow down your shark, whatever you want to do to personalize your game and make it more interesting, more challenging. Any additional components that I didn't cover at all that you're familiar with, feel free to incorporate in, okay? I hope you guys enjoyed the project, and again, don't forget to hit mark as done when you are finished so that I know it's ready to grade.